It's episode 549 of the Locked On Texas Rangers podcast, and baseball is finally back. Major League Baseball and the Players Association have agreed to a deal. We're going to talk about what that means for the Rangers, what things are changing, and why it took so long to get to this point. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On to the Texas Rangers. I'm your host, Brice Paterik, here in my third, however many seasons covering the Texas Rangers since 2014. Absolutely out of my mind with joy that baseball is finally back. But first, thank you guys so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Brice Paterik. Follow the show at Locked On Rangers and subscribe on YouTube. We are closing in on 600 subscribers. Maybe we'll get a nice boost now that baseball is finally back. We've got so much to get into on this episode. We're going to be talking about what all is different in this new collective bargaining agreement, why it took so long to actually get here, and what is going to happen now for the Texas Rangers. But first, the lockout is done. Oh, thank God. Thank God. 99 days. We almost hit triple digits. It felt like 800 days, even though it was only 99, maybe 99,000 days. It's been a long time because there were some really good things happening for the Texas Rangers right before this stupid lockout hit. I'm sure ownership and I'm sure management, as in the general management, was kind of pissed about this lockout happening because, hey, look at all these fancy new players we got. We just spent $500 million on two players in a 3-day span. Also, we got John Gray. Also, we got Cole Calhoun. A lot of other fun stuff that is still on the table the Rangers will get to eventually, but it was bad timing for the Rangers. It was bad timing for it to be a Rangers podcast. All this excitement that got absolutely shot right in the foot by the timing of this stupid lockout. The second longest work stoppage in Major League Baseball history, the longest being, of course, the year that I was born, 1994, when they did not have a World Series that year. So, what all is changing in baseball? Well, let's go ahead and start with the National League has DH. That's happening. It's been on the table for a while. I'm honestly a little surprised it didn't get agreed to in an earlier CBA, but, that's where we are. Also, there's going to be a draft lottery. I believe it's going to be the most teams that are in a draft lottery in any North American men's major sport at this point. Draft picks will also be given to help eliminate service time manipulation, which was a big problem, has been a big problem. I'm not sure it has done enough to do this, but we'll get more information on that as it comes out. But that seems like a good deal. Minimum salary is up from $570,500 to minimum of $700K, and it will be increasing all the way to $780K eventually. There's also a pre-arbitration bonus pool worth $50 million split between the teams. Also, we have expanded playoffs. Also, the competitive balance tax is changing. I have not seen exact numbers on what that is going to be changing to, but it is going to be up from where it is at this point. So, those are a lot of changes. That's a whole lot of changes. Let's start with what we started with. The National League has DH, which means the last pitcher to get a hit in a Major League Baseball game while there was still pitchers that were hitting is Zack Greinke in this most recent World Series, who was on an AL team, which I think is just really fitting. Not only because Zack Greinke is probably the best hitting pitcher, at least of this generation, the non-Shohei Ohtani variety, but I think it's just so perfect that it's a guy on an American League team that did it, I believe, in a pitch hitting situation. I believe he got 2 hits, 2 singles in the World Series this year, but man, that's just really fitting and really perfect. I don't want to hear your talk about Madison Bumgarner being the best hitting pitcher. He just hit more dingers, and he's not a better hitter. He's not a better hitter than Zack Greinke, who I think probably could have been a Major League position player if he wanted to, if he wasn't such a dang good Major League pitcher. But there's also going to be a draft lottery. Now, I'm not exactly sure if it's going to be 5 or 6 teams. That was what was being argued. Last time I checked, Major League Baseball was at 5 teams holding strong. Major League Baseball Players Association wanted 6. So there's also going to be some punitive punishments for teams that end up in the lottery multiple years in a row, which should theoretically discourage tanking, which, again, I talked about this on an earlier episode where I didn't think that the draft lottery was a good idea, and how rarely number one overall picks turn out to be Hall of Famers, unlike some of the other major sports where there's a more surefire thing. But there's a lot of things that can go wrong even for the best prospects that are drafted first overall. Now, let's also look at the minimum salary, which is up $130,000 ish, give or take, less, $29,500, I should say, which is pretty big, and one of the bigger things that this CBA has done, because most of the players, more than half the players in Major League Baseball last year were on minimum salaries. It is an epidemic. It is not a whole lot of veterans that are getting these veteran minimum deals that are like $1 million, $2 million, or things of that nature. There's a lot of guys that are being called up to be placeholders that don't have a long future in Major League Baseball. So upping that by a significant amount is substantial, and it helps a whole lot of players, and I think it's good that they hammered on that very, very heavily, and we're able to make some significant strides in that. Now, the pre-arbitration bonus pool, basically, this is not $50 million per team. This is $50 million split 30 ways equally. So it's going to be a little under $2 million per team. I think, if my math is right, $1.6667 million per team. That goes to the top guys who are not quite arbitration eligible just yet, so you can start paying those guys who are like a Mike Trout or a Fernando Tatis Jr. or name another rookie that was absolutely amazing in their very first year in the big leagues. So those guys, instead of making the minimum, some of those guys can make a little bit more than the minimum. They're still not going to make a whole lot until they get to arbitration, but they're going to make a whole lot more than they used to make, and that is some big improvement. Now, we are at 12 teams for the playoffs. I was a little worried with this most recent bargaining session, this most recent games are canceled. No, they're not, and we're going to cancel them again, and deadline, whatever, that they were going to have to go back and cave all the way to 14-team playoff, which I think is just way too much for Major League Baseball. I think the fewer teams, the better, because, again, Major League Baseball has the longest season in any North American male professional major sport. Actually, I'm pretty sure of just any North American professional sport, because 162 games is a whole lot, and you need to value that regular season, because as we've seen many times, like in 2011, when the Cardinals, who were not nearly as good as the Rangers and mainly the Giants, I guess it's just mainly the Giants a whole lot that have done it, have been a middling team during the regular season and then come into the playoffs and absolutely destroyed everybody. I think it was kind of funny, ironically, that they had that twist on their head. They were the best team in Major League Baseball during the regular season this year, and I don't think they made it past their first opponent, which was the Dodgers, which was just really funny to me because, so many times they've just been pretty good and had some luck and ended up in the wild card, and just everyone on their team got hot at the right time, and they had Madison Bumgarner pitching out of his dang mind in the playoffs like he always did. So it was kind of funny to see that happen. But I think 12 teams is all right. It's enough to where we get a little bit more baseball. I'm hoping that we get extended series too, so it's not just, okay, we got the wild card game or the wild card series, I guess, like it'll probably be like it was in 2020 when we had that super duper expanded playoff. I'm hoping that we can get some longer series, hoping that the ALDS and the NLDS can be 7-game series as opposed to 5, and maybe those wild card series can be 3 or 5, not 3, but 5 games. I'm really hoping that's what it is, but I haven't seen exactly on those numbers yet. We'll have plenty of time to get into more of this because we have lots of stuff to get into, lots of fun stuff that's going to be happening. But coming up, I'm going to talk to you guys about why this deal took so long to get done. What are some of the things that make me a little bit hesitant about these players accepting this, and a little bit more. But first, I'll talk to you guys about Mission Possible. Are you ready to discover your purpose and leave an impact wherever you go? Mission Possible, written by New York Times best-selling author and athlete Tim Tebow, encourages you to find your inspiration, pursue your purpose, and create a life for yourself that counts. Ignite a new spark in your life through this new inspirational listen. Mission Possible by Tim Tebow is available everywhere audiobooks are sold. Now, why did this deal take so long to get done? There's a number of reasons. There's quite a few reasons, the first of which is that there was a lockout. By the way, in case you were wondering if this defensive lockout was necessary, first off, you should probably already know by this point that it was not at all necessary. And if there was a CBA that is expired, it is completely within the realm of possibilities. Even the more likely, the smarter thing to do, the thing that happens more often, is that players or a league can go into the next season on an expired CBA, just going through the terms, going on based on the terms of the last collective bargaining agreement, and just have a season like normal while both sides continue to argue and counter and all that good stuff during the season until you get a new CBA ratified, and then you start going by the terms of the new collective bargaining agreement. But there was literally no reason for this to start. The rhetoric was completely dishonest by Major League Baseball. From the very start, they said this is a defensive lockout, so it would kickstart negotiations. Well, all that kickstarting led to them waiting 43 days to actually start negotiating with the Players Association, who said they were ready from day one when this lockout happened on December 2nd. That's not really negotiating good faith, which is kind of the hallmark of Major League Baseball during these labor negotiations. One of the big things that was really frustrating for fans and for me and for players, I'm sure as well, was the media who was being leaked this information by ownership, by Major League Baseball, that, oh, both sides are really close to a deal. Oh, they're so close to a deal. Oh, they're so close to a deal. And then, right when the excitement, right when the fever pitch of, oh my gosh, baseball's back. Oh my gosh, baseball's back. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Owners would slide in 3 different times they did this. They pulled a full Billy Mays and said, but wait, there's more. 3 different times they did this. The first time they did this with rule changes, with instituting bigger bases, which still for the life of me, I can't understand why they want to do that. There's basically no positive impact there. They wanted to talk about adding a pitch clock, which probably should have been talked about from the very beginning, but ownership and Major League Baseball did not talk about that until the sides were being leaked that they were close to a deal the first time. And then, shockingly, both sides kind of fell apart and said, okay, well, that's not happening. And I believe that's when the first 2 series of the season were canceled or removed from the calendar, or whatever the heck language Major League Baseball used. The second time, both sides were getting really close. All right, we made some talk, some progress on the rule changes. We can accept what those are and feel those out and see what's going on. Oh, they're so close. Oh, they're so close. John Heyman. Oh, I promise you they're really close. Bob. Oh, I promise you they're so close, guys. We're really going to make it happen this time. Psych. Here's an international draft. We haven't talked about that. We haven't brought that up in these negotiations, and it hasn't been received at all by the Players Association. It's been categorically denied every single time a clear non-starter type issue with the Major League Baseball Players Association, which it has been for some time. Now, I'm not saying that the system for acquiring players internationally with the July to, or now I guess January to, international signings is a great system. It's not. It's plenty flawed. But it has been this way because Major League Baseball has decided to keep it this way and has not intervened. But at least in its flawedness, the players internationally in, Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, and other Latin American nations particularly have a little bit of a say, much more of a say of which team they sign with than they would if they were drafted. So, teams fall apart. And then they started talking, and Major League Baseball Players Association said, okay, well, we still need some more time to discuss this because it's a big issue, but what if we put a pin in this and tie this to draft picks compensation? That's the main thing that changed. This has been brought up before, but the main thing was Major League Baseball said this is going to be directly tied to the restricted free agents. Signing those guys would cost draft picks, which it has and will continue to unless this international player draft is going to happen. So that's the thing that changed there. Sides fell apart. Now they kind of came to an agreement on that. It's looking like it's not necessarily going to start just yet, but they're going to take a little bit more time, have a little bit more time to discuss that. And if the sides come to an agreement on instituting a international players draft, then it's looking like draft pick compensation for restricted free agents is not going to, or draft picks are not going to be taken away from a team for signing a restricted free agent, which Sucks that it's not going to happen this year because the Rangers are probably going to lose a couple draft picks for signing the two amazing free agents that they did, which absolutely worth it. They're not going to lose their top overall pick for signing Seager and Simeon, but they're going to lose a little bit of that. But in this most recent time, they're so close. They're so close. But we want you to drop these two major lawsuits. These two very big lawsuits. One came in 2018. Players were suing some of these small market teams for not using their revenue sharing dollars to actually improve their teams. Now those small market teams include, you can probably guess, but of course it's the A's, the Rays, the Pirates, and I believe there was one more team. But those are the main culprits. So basically, the way revenue sharing dollars work is that the teams that are in smaller markets that are theoretically less competitive, they get some revenue sharing dollars from Major League Baseball from the bigger market teams that are making more money and therefore allegedly able to spend more on free agents. And so this money is supposed to be used for improving your team, basically for signing big free agents that you allegedly couldn't otherwise do because you are such a small market, you're not making any money. Oh my gosh, you're so poor. And these teams have not done that. I mean, I just saw a tweet a couple days ago that the largest free agent signing in Pirates history was, I think, Francisco Liriano for like $35 or $40 million. These are teams that have never, ever signed players to big deals. It's looking like the Rays are kind of realizing, we kind of better actually spend some money, and just paid Wander Franco a whole crap ton of money, even though he is not quite arbitration eligible just yet, which, good, he should get paid. Still probably going to be an underpay. But still, that's a big lawsuit. Also, most recently, Major League Baseball Players Association sued Major League Baseball in 2020 for dragging their heels and making the season start much later than it already could have because they were haggling over every single little thing about the shortened season, which that was kind of the preview of how this CBA negotiation was going to go. It could have been a 100-game season. Could have even made it to 120. But ownership wanted to drag their heels and, take their sweet, sweet time because they don't value April games. Well, they got to drop that lawsuit now in order to agree to this. So those lawsuits are both gone. And what would have been really nice, what was really big about those is that not only could players have reaped, 6 figures, not more than 6, 9-figure, possibly up to 9 figures in damages against Major League Baseball for those lawsuits. It also would have forced some of the Major League teams to open up their books, which they haven't done to this point, which would completely eliminate any excuses of the owners crying, we're so poor, we don't have any money to spend on good players, which nobody really believes them very much on that anyway. But this would have matter-of-factly, without a doubt, said, hey, look, you can do this, and also you're not going to get your revenue sharing dollars unless you actually spend it on good players, which I know my friend Ethan Smith of Locked On Pirates is desperately hoping that his team would eventually spend more than $30 or $40 million on a free agent signing. But that's where we are at this point. Coming up, I'm going to talk about what happens now, what actual deadlines are going to be happening, what things are going to be starting, when spring training happens, and when opening day is going to happen. But first, I'll talk to you guys about Built Bar. That's right, it's March, and at this point, it means I've basically given up all of my New Year's resolutions. But the only one that I'm sticking to this year is the resolution to eat right by eating a bunch of Built Bars. They are delicious. They are good for you. They are the protein bar that tastes even better than a candy bar. If you hadn't had a Built Bar at this point, what are you doing? You're denying yourself one of life's great pleasures. They've got all kinds of different flavors. They have Built Bar Puffs, which are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. That's right. They've got all kinds of great things that they are doing with that. They are fluffy, they are marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar, and they are an absolute treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate, just like all Built Bars are. They're low calorie, they're high protein. You can replace your candy bars with these, and you won't tell a difference except for the fact that you're looking a little bit better, maybe you're fitting into your pants a little better, and those things taste even better than those candy bars. So go to Built.com, scroll through the macros, you're going to be blown away with the high protein, low calorie, high fiber, low carb. They've got literally all great stuff. So go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. This episode is also brought to you by RockAuto.com. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why would you often pointless or even seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing only the brand their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. You can save time and money when using rockauto.com. Why would you spend for 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership? Like, seriously, what are you doing? You just gotta go check out rockauto.com, their family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every single customer. They got everything you need. So go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck, and write Locked On in their How'd You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. Now, we are into the good stuff. What's going to happen now? Well, there's all kinds of good stuff that is happening. Today is Thursday at 3:43 Central as I am recording this. Free agency opens tonight. Once this deal gets ratified, which I think should be sometime late this afternoon or tonight, free agency is going to happen. I've been talking to... My initial prediction for free agency was that it's going to be like NBA free agency, where technically the deadline opens on July 2nd or whatever day it is at like 5 p.m. Central Time. And within the first 10 seconds, there's already like 4 or 5 major deals that are announced. Teams and agents have been negotiating the entire time until when they shouldn't have been. But once the deadline is passed, then, actually, this thing has been open. But I'm not so sure at this point. I talked to a couple people around baseball who have a better feel on the pulse of Major League Baseball and where this might land. I think it might take a day because this is different than the NBA situation. I mean, there's just as much urgency to get these deals done. There's a lot of absolutely massive free agents that are still out there. By the way, Carlos Correa still doesn't have a team. Who else is there? Freddie Freeman doesn't have a team yet. Trevor Story doesn't have a team yet. Clayton Kershaw actually just signed with Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. Just kidding. He just hung out there, did some PR work and served some chicken, which would have been really funny if I went to go get some canes and hey, look, Clayton Kershaw's there. That would be very surprising. But I don't think he's actually going to pitch for Raising Cane's because he would be asked to do way too much in their starting rotation. Absolutely too much of a workhorse. But I think it might be until tomorrow or Saturday or maybe even Sunday. But I think deals are going to get done in a pretty quick fashion. I don't think until maybe the last week or so that teams and agents have even really been talking, because there's been such a dispute in such difference in these later talks. There was some real thought. I honestly thought at one point, even a couple days ago, that the season not being played at all had maybe a 15 to 20% chance of happening. There being absolutely no season, which would be the absolute worst case scenario. But it didn't look like these sides were really close for people who actually knew what was going on in the negotiations. They knew that time was kind of closing fast and they really wanted to close in on a deal. But I think spring training, by the way, starts on Sunday, and opening day is going to be April 7th. It's looking like at this point. I'm thinking that the original schedule is going to hold up. They're just going to do it in a compressed fashion. There's going to be a lot of double headers. All those will be 9-inning double headers, according to Jesse Rogers of ESPN. So all that talk about Major League Baseball saying today they imposed their latest deadline, quote-unquote, on deadline, which was at 3 p.m. Eastern, so 2 o'clock this time. So about 2 hours ago, or like an hour-ish before all this news actually broke, which, again, but something that really stood out to me is that all the player reps, I don't know who voted for the Rangers. I'm not exactly sure, because Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News said that during the 2021 season, Kyle Gibson was the Rangers player representative. Then it turned over to Charlie Culberson once he was traded. Now Charlie Culberson is a free agent, so not exactly sure who the Rangers would be sending at this point. Their most veteran guy, I mean, maybe it'd be John Gray, maybe it would be Corey Seager, but it wouldn't be Marcus Semien because he is on the executive committee, so he gets his own vote. Basically, the way it works is that the executive committee, which is made up of 8 players, one of which is Marcus Semien, newest Ranger, and also Max Scherzer and a couple other guys as well. The guys on the executive committee voted against this proposal. They voted completely against it, but 26 out of 30 team representatives voted for it. The only ones who voted against it, I believe, were the Mets, the Cardinals, and a couple of other teams. But I'm not sure who the Rangers would have sent. I might think it would be John Gray would make the most sense at this point, because there's not a whole lot of veterans on this team, and John Gray is most definitely that. Marcus Semien would be the obvious logical choice if he wasn't on the Players Committee, but that's what it's looking like. And what was frustrating, at the last minute, I would think the teams that were voting against it, or the players that would be voting against it, were the players that thought, okay, yeah, this lawsuit is way too big a deal for us to just drop. Both of these lawsuits are really big deals and could get us a whole lot of money and could completely give us huge leverage over Major League Baseball in the next CBA negotiation. But it's coming out from Ken Rosenthal that mainly the thing that they were far apart on and were objecting to was they wanted the competitive balance tax to be a little bit higher, which is kind of frustrating, disappointing, because of those things. Yeah, that's a big issue that they really wanted, and ownership did move a whole lot more in their most recent proposals than it looked like they were. And initially, it was like, this is not something that ownership's going to move on at all. But as push came to shove, and it looked like they might not get a full 162-game season, therefore would not get the expanded playoff and all kinds of other things, and negotiations would get even nastier at this point. That's why I think it was so important that a deal get done now, because this was what Major League Baseball said, which they'd said multiple times, that this is the last chance that we have to get a full 162-game season. And it's looking like, yeah, that might have actually been the case. They might have actually stuck to those guns, and that's why they agreed to a deal now. But basically, free agency starts now. Spring training starts on Sunday. April 7th, it's looking like it's going to be opening day. So the Rangers might actually get their opening day at home with their shiny new free agents against the Yankees, just like their ownership group most definitely wanted. And we will still get to see very early in the season, I believe the third series at this point. I believe the third series is going to be Marcus Semien coming back to Toronto to see those Blue Jays fans who I know still love him very much and are happy for him getting his money and will give him nice cheers and flowers like he most definitely deserves. And he'll get to see old Vladdy Guerrero Jr. and hopefully the Rangers can go sweep them and exercise some of those annoyances from 2015 and 16, even though it's a completely different team. And I actually kind of like the Blue Jays just a little bit now with their young core. But those are the main things that are going on. So, like I said, what are the Rangers going to do at this point? I think priority number one, they have got to sign a pitcher. They've got to sign some veteran pitcher. There's a few guys on the market. Clayton Kershaw, I think, has got to be choice number one. Carlos Rodon, a 1B, if you will. If you don't think that Clayton Kershaw has any thought, which I feel like they've got to at least have, kind of bridged it a little bit with Scott Boras, who is Clayton Kershaw's agent. They got to have at least a little bit of a pulse. I still think at this point it's about 60 to 65% that he goes back to the Dodgers. The Rangers have about a 35 to 40% chance of actually signing him. I don't think there's basically any chance of him signing anywhere else. The Canes signing was a little bit shocking, but I think it's just to add some pressure, add some sauce into the negotiations, if you will, between those two teams. But I think Clayton Kershaw is going to be their primary focus. I think Seiya Suzuki on the player side, they need to sign one more outfielder, I believe, unless they really think that Leote is ready to handle a full-time job in center field. Even then, they still could probably use one more outfielder. I mean, unless they're going to do the whole Nick Solak and Cole Calhoun platooning in left field, then Leote in center field, then Adolis Garcia in right field. But I don't think they're ready to do that. I think they want to actually compete for this expanded playoff. And so, I don't know. Leote is going to be a big old question mark. How does he look in spring training? How can he hold up? Can his offense make up or can his defense make up for what his offense has lacked recently? The defense has been spectacular, phenomenal, absolutely astounding, but the offense has kind of fallen off a cliff and then fallen off another cliff and then fallen into, I don't know, the Mariana Trench or something like that. But it's been really rough, and I think he's definitely got potential. Defensively alone, he can be a valuable, very valuable Major League Baseball player, but if he can be at least an average offensive center fielder, that guy is going to be a multi-time All-Star. I think the Rangers are betting on that pretty big as well, and very excited about that. But Seiya Suzuki's got to be at the top of their priority list for position players. They need to sign one more bat, I believe, to kind of have a handle in this. I think they're still going to have some preliminary talks with Matt Olson, first base, or with the A's, about Matt Olson potentially coming in and replacing Nathaniel Lowe, which I'm not as in on as I was earlier. I don't know that it'll be worth the huge price that the Rangers are probably going to have to pay. I think Nathaniel Lowe is going to take a big leap this year. But if you can get Matt Olson without giving up one of your top three guys in Josh Young, Jack Leiter, or Cole Winn, then I think you do that in a heartbeat and you don't look back and you feel really, really good about it. But if you can't, if you have to give up one of those guys, I don't think that it's necessarily worth it in the upgrade that you're going to get, because this could be a big season for Nathaniel Lowe. And as much as I like Matt Olson, I think he is one of the best first basemen in baseball, and that would make the Rangers' infield defense probably the best in Major League Baseball, bar none, if they had Gold Glover Matt Olson on first, Gold Glover at second base with Marcus Semien, a mediocre defensive Corey Seager, and a Gold Glover, if not Platinum Glove level defender in IKF at third base. That would be some incredible infield defense and maybe some amazing outfield defense if they had Adolis and Leote in center and right field, no matter who is in left field. But anyway, that's what I think the Rangers have to do. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some contingency plans, some other guys who I think the Rangers should pursue. A whole lot more fun stuff coming up. We're going to be back to 5 days a week now that this lockout is over. Going to be a whole lot of Rangers content. There's going to be a whole lot of news that's going to be coming up. I probably won't have another episode until Friday afternoon / morning, depending on what happens in the free agency burst that's sure to come tonight. But thank you guys so much for listening to Locked On Rangers. If you're not already, like I said before, go follow me on Twitter at Brice Paterik, follow the show at Locked On Rangers, and subscribe on YouTube. Baseball is back, and thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.